Mindful breathing, the bridge of awareness. Breath is one constant thread in your life from the moment you're born until the moment you leave this body. It's so simple, so obvious that most of us forget it's even there. Yet, it is the foundation of everything. You can go days without food, hours without water, but only, minutes without breath. And beyond keeping you alive, your breath is a bridge. Hi friends, I'm Scott, and I welcome you to be one with me as we journey together to be the best we can. I make content on expanded consciousness and spiritual solutions for the mind, body, and spirit. And we're talking about mindful breathing. The breath connects the mind to the body and the body to the spirit and the present moment to eternity. To breathe with awareness is to step into alignment with yourself. To ignore your breath is to drift unconsciously through life, pulled around by thoughts, impulses, and external noise. Mindful breathing is not about controlling or forcing your breath. It's about remembering it, listening to it, and allowing it to bring you back home. Think of it as the original meditation, older than any tradition or philosophy, and as natural as waves meeting the shore. You don't need a teacher or a mantra or a perfect environment to practice. You already have everything you need, the air around you and the lungs within you. What makes the difference is awareness. I remember sitting in a sweat lodge years ago, and the steam rising, the stones glowing red, the heat pressing down like a weight from the ancestors. In those moments when the intensity was overwhelming, the only way through was breath. Not shallow, panicked gasps, but deep, conscious inhales, and long, steady exhales. Breath became prayer. Breath became survival. Breath became presence, and it struck me that this is always available, whether in ceremony or in traffic or in the middle of an argument, or when lying awake at night with a racing mind. Awareness of breath is awareness of life itself. So what happens when you breathe mindfully? The body immediately begins to shift out of stress mode. Your heart slows down, your nervous system recalibrates, and your mind becomes less frantic. It's like hitting the reset button. If you've ever noticed yourself caught in a spiral of anxious thoughts, you know how hard it can be to think your way out of it. the one conscious breath can interrupt the loop, pulling us back into the present. It doesn't solve everything instantly, but it creates space. And in that space, wisdom arises. The thing about mindful breathing is that it doesn't ask you to become someone else. You don't need to be more spiritual or more disciplined or more perfect. You simply need to pause and notice what has been with you all along. You can practice while walking, eating, driving, washing the dishes, The act is less about the breath and more about remembering awareness in the moment. Each inhale and exhale is like a bell calling you back to your own beginning. Let's get practical for just a moment. Imagine you wake up tomorrow and instead of immediately reaching for your phone, it's warm out here, you sit up and take 5 slow breaths, paying attention to the way your chest rises and falls. No judgment, no performance, just breath. How do you think that might shift the rest of your day? Or picture yourself in the middle of a heated conversation where emotions are running high, and instead of snapping back with your first reaction, you pause and inhale deeply and exhale slowly, and then speak. How different would that exchange feel? These are not just spiritual practices, they're tools for real life. When I first began to practice mindful breathing consistently, I noticed something subtle but powerful. My reactions started to slow down. I wasn't as quick to anger or to spiral into worry. There was a better awareness between stimulus and response. That space changed everything. It gave me the freedom to choose how I wanted to show up instead of being ruled by habit or emotion. That's when I realized breathing is not just a biological necessity. It's a spiritual discipline, a way of shaping who we become moment by moment. Here's, as a reflection, how often, do you actually notice your breath during the day? How do you feel your inhale travel all the way down to your belly, or your exhale release the tension you didn't even know you have or were experiencing or carrying? Take a moment and to check in, without changing anything. Just notice. That simple act of noticing the beginning of awareness. There's also a deeper mystery of the breath. Across traditions, breath has always been tied to spirit. The Hebrew word rah, rah, means both breath and spirit. In Sanskrit, prana carries the same dual meaning. In many indigenous traditions, breath is seen as the life force that connects us with creation itself. This isn't this is experiential. When you breathe deeply with awareness, you can actually feel yourself connected to something larger. The inhale is receiving from the universe, and the exhale is giving back. Giving back. It's a dance, a constant exchange that mirrors the rhythm of life itself. An exercise I often recommend is the 3-breath pause. It's simple, yet profound. Whenever you feel scattered or overwhelmed, stop and take 3 mindful breaths. Inhale slowly, noticing the air entering, and exhale fully. Noticing what leaves. Repeat that 3 times. It takes less than a minute. But the effect is often immediate. You feel calmer, more centered, more awake. Try it right now. As you're watching this video, breathe in, let it go. Let's be real. Mindful breathing sounds simple, but it's not always easy. Your mind will resist. You'll get distracted. You'll forget that you'll forget that's normal. In fact, forgetting and remembering is part of the practice. Every time you notice you've drifted away and come back to the breath, you're strengthening awareness. It's like training a muscle. At first, it may feel clumsy, but over time it becomes natural. You don't need to force yourself into hours of practice. Even just a few mindful breaths sprinkled throughout your day can change the texture of your life. Think about it. Think about it like this. Every time you return to your breath, you are reclaiming your power instead of being tossed around by thoughts, emotions, or circumstances. You're choosing to anchor in the one thing that is always present and always true. It's no small act. It's an act of liberation. So let me ask, where in your life, right now, could mindful breathing make the biggest difference? Is it in managing stress at work, or in being more patient with loved ones, or finding clarity for your decisions, for the decisions that you're facing? and reconnecting with your spiritual path. Imagine applying the practice in that space. How might it transform your experience? I often compare mindful breathing to tuning an instrument. Just as the guitar goes out of tune from regular use, we go out of alignment through the busyness and the pleasures of daily life. Breath is the way we tune back into bringing harmony to the mind, the body, and the spirit. Without the tuning, the music is discordant. With tuning, the same instrument produces beauty. You are that instrument. Your breath is the tuning key. And here's the beauty. You can never do it wrong. Even if your mind wanders 100 times, each return to the breath is a success. Each return is another step across the bridge of awareness. Over time, you'll notice that you carry a different presence. People will feel it when they're around you, and even if they can't put it into words, you'll feel it too. A sense of being more rooted, more alive, and more connected. One of the most powerful things about mindful breathing is that it reaches us and teaches us to be what is instead of escaping discomfort. We learn to breathe through it instead of grasping for the future or clinging to the past. We learn to rest in the now. And this doesn't, mean life becomes easy or pain disappears. It means we develop the capacity to meet life as it is with awareness, with presence, with compassion. And that's the heart of spiritual maturity. Simple practice is to carry with you each morning, or to before you begin your day. Pause, take those 5 breaths. Each time you transition between tasks, take 3 breaths. Each night before bed, pause for 10 breaths. If you do nothing else, this alone will reshape your days. Because in those pauses, you are reconnecting with the bridge of awareness. You are reminding yourself that you are more than your thoughts, more than your tasks, and more than your worries. You are presence itself, carried on the rhythm of breath. As I close this reflection, I want to leave you with one final question. What would it look like if your entire life became a meditation on the breath? Not just a practice you do occasionally, not just a practice you do occasionally, but a way of being. Each inhale receiving, each exhale releasing. Each moment a chance to remember that you're alive, connected, and whole. That's the invitation of mindful breathing. That's the bridge of awareness. You know, it's waiting for you, you know, right here. In this very breath. Like and share this video. Let me know in the comments about how you see the lessons, inspirational or spiritual guidance you might have found in this video, and how you use the breath to connect with your life. Subscribe to this channel. More is coming from the heart for the soul. Check out one of these videos. Remember, a smile can make someone stay, and the right words may change their life. I love you truly. Be you. Be one with me.